Welcome to You Are Intuitive, a refreshing series of candid, intimate, and grounded conversations about developing and using intuition in the real world. I am your host, Dana Mahacek, and my guest today is Sheryl Miskenack of Misquill Jewelry. A soulful silversmith and intrepid craftswoman, Sheryl is well known for burning the midnight oil. With her gritty work ethic and overwhelming abundance of inspiration, she conjures contemporary designs from her home-based studio on Vancouver Island. Often working well into the night, bending silver and stone to her will, guided by a whisper from within, Sheryl finds solace in her craft. Sheryl found her niche in the jewelry trade as both a necessary creative outlet and because she recognized the increasing public demand for intelligently priced, intuitively designed, and handmade quality goods. As she states, "I was led to jewelry design feeling like there was never anything out there that was reasonably priced and that fit my aesthetic taste." For Sheryl, staying inspired is not a choice. "I am all the time," she says. "Sometimes it's overwhelming because I want to make everything, but nature always grounds me. Music and fashion help too." Honoring her partial Cree background, Sheryl is drawn to Native American historical references to guide her creative process. She strongly identifies with visceral, rugged beauty in whatever form it takes. One can see those cues realized in her work. Sheryl loves working with fire and metal, things that make her hands dirty, and transforming the elements into something beautiful. As someone whose fingers, ears, and neck are personally draped in at least one of Sheryl's soulful creations on a daily basis, I am overjoyed to introduce her to you today and to share our conversation on intuition with you. Enjoy, and thank you so much for being here. Hi, Sheryl. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to talk to you about intuition.
Hi, Dana. Me too.
So one of the things to start out with that I like to ask people in this series is basically whether or not you consider yourself to be an intuitive person.
Yeah, big time.
Big time? Yeah? Have you always felt that way?
Yep. And from the time I was a kid, my mom would always say to me, like, parents have advice for certain things. And from the time I can remember, she would say to me, if you're in a situation and it doesn't feel right, leave, follow your gut. So she encouraged that for my whole life, for as long as I can remember. So it was a nurtured thing.
That's really incredible, because I think it's actually, you would be in the minority for people to have actively been encouraged to flex those muscles. Not that other parents would say don't follow your gut, but to have that actually be like an open piece of advice that your mom would continually give you. I think that that's really amazing.
And she didn't give a lot of advice. Like, she really didn't. It was kind of like, she was like really beautiful, great mom, super loving, but also there was a lot of freedom. Like, I got to be whoever I wanted to be. Like, there was no, don't do that, Sheryl, like that's not the way to do things. Like, I didn't feel that sort of stuff. Yeah. But it was like, I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to be away from her. And so, yeah, that was the biggest thing, and one of the major things was just follow my gut. And if I get a bad sense of something, get the hell out.
Yeah, that really, do you think that she is intuitive as well, and that she...
Major.
Yeah, so I guess people who, if parents also grow up feeling and being like really connected to their intuition, that it's something that they hopefully can normalize and kind of pass down to their children, which it sounds like your mom did for you.
Yeah, and very gifted. She was, she saw things when she was younger. So just, yeah, very spiritually connected. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't openly accepted in her family or in her home. Like they all she grew up religious. She grew up in Belgium, Catholic. So I think that there was this understanding that there is, other things spiritually happening.
Yeah.
So, but it was like it was like, oh, if you see a spirit, then we need to exercise this, right? Like,
Yeah, no kidding.
it was
Yeah.
more of a negative thing. So,
Yeah. But then she was able to kind of, it sounds like, kind of separate from that to a point where she could at least normalize it for you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And did you find, like, do you also see things, or do you, like, how does intuition show up for you?
I don't see things. It's definitely sensing.
Yeah.
And like it's like that, just a knowing. And so I was actually thinking about this morning because I was having a chat with my friend, and I had this like sense chatting with her, and it almost came up as like a conversation in my head that I was having with her. And this is all in like a matter of seconds, right? Like having, and then I was like, oh, then my, like, I don't know what to say, like my conscious mind, I guess, I don't know, said, no, don't bring that up. Like that's kind of a touchy thing to bring up with somebody. And then boom, like as I was thinking that, she said that. She goes, I think I have, an issue with something. And I was like, I was just gonna say that. So it comes up as senses. It comes up as flashes sometimes, like a flash before my eyes. Like another time, can I go off on the stories?
Yeah, totally. This is really helpful.
Because I could tell. Like now, I'm like, now you open the gate. Now I'm like, woo, flooding. There's so many. So like a really good friend of mine, I was laying in bed right before going to sleep. And it's funny because I get like an actual visual of things. If I turn, I think I was turning to my right. So it's rolling over to my right, like, or looking to my right or something. And this flash came into my mind of her, and they're foggy, right? Like they're hazy kind of vision, but it's a clear vision. Like, you can't deny that it was like a message. Yeah. And I saw a hand reaching across the table with a piece of paper for her to sign. And I got the feeling of, oh shit, be careful. And so really read what you're going to, sign off on. Yeah. And so I texted her right away, and I'm like, do you have some like paperwork or something that you have to sign? And she goes, yeah. She said, tomorrow morning I'm going in to sign my divorce settlement papers.
Oh, that is a pretty serious paper to sign.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I had that vision, and I want you to just read carefully, really carefully, what you're signing off on, and know that everything works for you, and that you're good with it all. And so, yeah, so visual and sensing. Yeah, I think.
And I was actually, just to share another story, when you were talking, it was also reminding me of when you were making me that first ring and it went missing, and you knew who had taken it, even though that person denied taking it or ever having seen it or anything. And you just internally, it was like, I know you did it.
That's so funny. I forgot about that, but I just thought about her the other day, and going into my pantry, because we have this like adventure jar that we put money in. And I went in there and I was like, how did that chick get out the money from that jar? And then I was like, how did she know to look into a box in my entryway? And I had $100 bill tucked in that box, and she took that out too. Yeah. But what was funny about the $100 bill is that I just had that instinct to like look in there to see if it was gone, because the whole time I was like, why am I feeling angry right now? The whole time when she was in my presence in my house, it was like, oh, I was feeling this feeling that I don't feel normally. And she just really rubbed me the wrong way, and energetically.
Yeah.
And so when I looked in the box, that $100 bill was gone, and we were about to leave the house. And I turned around and I looked her straight in the eyes and I said, where's that $100 bill? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Let me go. I'll go look for it. Like, got all panicky, and then went into my son's room. Oh, look, it's on the floor. I was like, oh, how convenient is that, right? So I knew, every single sense of me was like, you are not allowed in my home. And this is before anything actually happened, but for the day before, she was here 2 days. So both days I just was crawling. I couldn't shake the feeling.
Yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit, just how, because you were saying in one of the earlier stories how, you know, you have that unshakable knowledge within, but then like your rational mind or your logic is like, hey, that doesn't make sense, or like, you shouldn't talk about that, it's a touchy subject or whatever. How often do you find that logical part of your brain trying to like override that inner knowing?
It comes up and I can decipher. Like, I know that I know which is which. I know in that logical mind, the wants to prove something or analyze or like find an answer to, or you feel bad, like, oh, I don't want to accuse that person of that because what if it's wrong? So I have that conversation in my head, but then I go, no, because I ask myself, I'm like, am I right? Yes. Am I wrong? No. Right? Like, I actually have that internal conversation, and I trust my intuition strong enough that it is going to like scream a yes at me or scream a no at me. And am I right? Did this girl take step? Yes. Am my feelings right? Yes. Like, I like converse with myself to like, you know, reassure myself almost too that I am right, and to trust it. like forget about that other thought, forget about that other way of thinking, like just let that go. And like I said to the girl, and this is where like I'm honest about it too, right? Where I said to the girl, I'm like, I know what you've done. I know that you have that ring. And I said, and what's really, really sad is that you know that you have it too, and you're okay with that right now. And I said, you know, I said, I don't know what's happened to you in your life that makes you think that this is okay. Energetically, I'm like, you can't get anything past me, just so you know.
I know everything. And
I said, maybe one day you can like, you know, you can fess up to it or return it or whatever. And, you know, no. And I just looked at her in the eyes. And I'm like, wow, she's so disconnected. And so as much as I really love like justice, that's my initial ego personality is like, you know, justice, right?
Justice.
And then that other part of me, the more spiritual side, is like, what happened to her, and what in her, like, you know, constitution makes this okay.
Well, and it's
and so I send it love, and I'm like, you know what, you must need that, so keep it.
well, and it's also two things I want to touch on with that. The first is that I find, and I'm sure you found, that it is a matter of just practicing and building up experience and building up trust so that you can have those conversations with yourself and be able to distinguish between like what your intuition knows and what your mind is saying. Like, I'm sure for the people listening to this that it wouldn't be just an automatic thing that you would know what your intuition is compared to what your mind and your brain is saying. So it's great that you've developed that, those muscles, that self-trust and that clarity around how your intuition shows up for you versus like how your mind comes in and is like, but wait, I don't know about this, or maybe we shouldn't say that. But then the other thing I wanted to bring up with that is just what I find really fascinating is how the same situation can be a lesson for, you know, all these different people in a completely different way, and everybody learns a different lesson from the situation, and everybody receives like different medicine or different different life lessons from it. So like for you with that situation with the ring going missing, that's like another lesson or another example where you know to trust your intuition. Like you're like, yeah, I know to trust myself and to trust my intuition. And maybe for her, the lesson she was getting is like just how awful it feels to know something, to know the truth inside, but not be able to fess up to it or own that or like apologize or whatever. So she's also learning from that experience, a different lesson, but who knows, you know, maybe in the future she'll be able to look back at that one example as like, that's when I really knew that I was out of alignment with myself or out of alignment with the truth. Who's to say,
Yeah.
right?
Because it had to have been a bad feeling for her. How could that have felt good, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about the feelings actually. Like when you feel like you were saying that you're right, like your intuition is just like, this is the facts.
Yeah.
How does that feel in your body? Like what kind of sensations does that actually bring up in you tangibly?
So kind of was two different feelings. The feeling of her being in my home, and my home is a really sacred space to me. And I take really good care, and I cleanse every day, open all my windows, burn sage, sweetgrass, cedar. I have my little rituals in the morning. It's just a really safe and trusting and loving, harmonious space.
Yeah.
And so when she came in, whatever she brought in, they were here to look after my son and keep him company while I was working. And I'm in my shop and I'm like, I'm feeling like it wasn't mine. Like, I'm like, why am I feeling so angry? It's like grinding the teeth. Like I just wanted to like go and like pull her hair, you know, like it was just like PMS, like really, really like what's taking over me, you know? And I just had to say, I was like the first day, I'm like, okay, guys, like, let's go. And I'm like, wow, what was wrong with me there? Like having a moment. So I didn't really acknowledge that it was her presence, but I knew that she rubbed me the wrong way anyway, but whatever, people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next day, having that feeling and then actually realizing like a ring is missing, money's now missing, the confirmation that she wasn't being honest. And so for me, it was, I guess all I can say with that feeling wise is conviction. Like, oh, okay, this is actually all you. This is your stuff, and I'm picking up your stuff. And so yeah, it was conviction and confirmation. So I felt, I guess if I can like go back and recall that, it was almost, I felt liberated. Yeah.
In your body. That's actually, that's really cool.
I felt strong. I felt confident. I felt like, and it wasn't, because it wasn't a negative feeling. And I was shaking and feeling like, whoa, this is really intense, the intensity of it all, and a bit confused and sort of like just shaken up a little bit. But the feeling resonating in me was like the conviction and the confidence and knowing that this is wrong, and we don't do this to each other, and I have all the right to stand up and to confront it and say it and speak it out and look her in the eye and talk to her about it. Like I felt convicted in that.
Yeah, kind of like a mama bear energy, it sounds like.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, maybe this happened and, you know, you don't want to really bring it up. And like, you know, there was no cowering. There was no uncertainty. There was, you know, a bit of the conversation in my mind, but I like fully like was like, no, not entertaining you thoughts, because this is what's up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting too because like you have that conviction and you have that like strength and liberation coming through to kind of indicate a yes for you, or like alignment for you, or truth for you. But then what you also brought up about kind of the opposite, the flip side, that like when something isn't right and isn't true, that you are feeling emotions that you generally don't experience in your house, and like, where is this coming from, or like, why am I feeling so angry or upset or just like
Yeah.
irritated? So it sounds like your body has just like really clear and really strong signals that you've learned to understand for
Yeah.
like what means yes, what means no, what means truth, what means something's not right here.
Right, feelings. I'm happy right now. I'm sad right now. I'm feeling confused. Like I can actually, I'm learning, and this has been a practice for the last year, is like being able to not react.
Mm.
Right.
Just
So
to witness it.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get the signals, because I'm a super in the past reactive person. Like very, right? Passionate, reactive, like, blah. And that's really muddying and really confusing and really just like, ugh, like it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So I've found a harmonious, peaceful place for the majority of the time in my life, especially right now. So it's easy for me to say all of this because I'm feeling very clear. Right? So I'm like, oh, could I have said this like 6 months ago? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's all a process, right? It's all a journey.
Yeah.
And we're like, none of us come like fresh out of the womb with this clarity and this like inner knowing and this inner trust, and that never wavers ever in our lives, right? Like even days when you are feeling super clear and you are feeling just connected to yourself and to your truth, everybody has off days, right? It's a continual practice and a continual strengthening of those intuitive muscles.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to, like you said, to be able to witness them and to know, like right now when I'm having a really shit day or really shit time and I'm feeling like super stressed and lots of pressure, it's like, all right, Sheryl, you know, you're feeling like this is just some contrast, right? Like you're going to feel really good
Mm-hmm.
on the other side of this. So just roll with it. It's all part of it.
Yeah, part of being human.
Right. So yeah, I don't cling to a lot of stuff. Sometimes it takes me a while to shake something off if like I get into a little scrap with my husband or something about whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, like the feeling of something, it's just like, okay, shake that off. We resolve things super quickly and it's like, okay, that was just like emotion, right? Reactive emotion.
Yeah. And just letting it there's that like it's called emotion because it's energy in motion and it needs to move in order to
right.
release tension or to release any feeling.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Because I
Yeah.
teach my son that now, right? Like if something is like he's really say has the like energy motion of feeling really upset and angry about something, that it's like get it out and let's sit here and you know like let he can like release it. There's some times where he can like release it all and we just lay there and hug and like hold each other and he screams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, done. And then after he's like, da 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 da. I was like, oh, wow, you needed to release a lot there.
Yeah.
Right? There's some energy pent up.
Yeah.
Or there's times too when we sit there and I'm like, look at me in the eyes and like, just breathe. Let's just breathe together. Let it go, breathe it out. And I said, and tell me, I said, what makes you really happy? Video games, Mom. I'm like, yeah, do no way. Oh no, he's like, he loves friggin' video games. Like a lot of momentum with that one.
Yeah.
So it's like instantly he's thinking of like, I'm like, let's think of the next best feeling thought.
Yeah.
What feels really good to you? So sometimes that, you know, you can have that really big emotion and it needs to just be released and then you're fine. But sometimes you have that, like, you know, kind of that slow momentum. It's picking up momentum, but then it's like, you know, say for somebody who's like angry and they're driving, and then it's like, oh, this like road rage happens, and then that road rage makes them upset, and then they think about that person last week who did something to them, and then they think of that kid back in like 7th grade who pissed them off and they have resentment. You know what I mean? Like it just
it can
goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it can escalate and elevate.
So teaching him and also teaching myself at the same time that just to think the next best feeling thing rather than going down those roads. So I think by having, like, staying clear for me and knowing not to engage in any of that shit, mental shit that we can so easily engage in, that by keeping clear, keeping like clear emotion, clear thought, and honoring that, like my intuition then is like crystal.
Yeah, well, you make space for it, right? Like you kind of take out the static and the noise of other energies or thoughts or feelings, and by like releasing that and having a valve to take the pressure off, then your intuition can actually come through more. There's actually space and room for it inside you.
Totally.
I want to talk about kids and intuition. Like, I don't have a kid personally, I'm not a parent, but I think a lot actually about, I guess, our responsibility as adults right now to teach kids how to connect with themselves, how to like understand and process their feelings, how to trust their feelings and to trust themselves. I think it's so important because I feel like for myself personally, I was always really sensitive. And even though like my parents were, you know, supportive of my emotions and stuff, there wasn't really as much of an understanding back then or as much of a lexicon that my parents could teach me about, like, this is what this is, it's only temporary, like, you know, we'll work through it. And when I got to school, there was like no support at all for emotional literacy or energetic literacy or intuitive intelligence. It was all just like school smarts, right? So I ended up kind of going up into my brain and staying there for like 30 years before I kind of trained myself to come back into my body and back into my feelings. How do you normalize intuition for your son? What kind of things do you teach him and do with him?
Oh, I think it just is like, it just is. I don't think I consciously like, oh, I've got to do this in this situation. Let me just think about this. He's only 5, so he doesn't really leave me, right? I don't have,
like, he's not in school or anything, so.
No, not yet. Okay, so all right. So, okay, so for example, we were going to a farmer's market and he was overwhelmed with all the people and the energy, and he's not always like that, but at this particular time he was clinging to me, and he goes, Mom, everybody's looking at me. And I was like, oh, okay, he's really open right now, and he's really susceptible and super sensitive right now. So I just crouched down in the middle of everybody, and like the traffic of people, it was really busy. And I just said to him, I said, look me in the eyes. I said, let's take a deep breath together. And I said, I'm going to wrap you right now in white light. So it's a protection. And I said, you have all the love inside of that white light cocoon, and it's all pure love. And I said, and anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, that just, it's going to bounce right off of it.
Yeah.
And so I actually, I picture wrapping him up.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, right? Like visualize it. And as I'm
Yeah.
visualizing it, I'm sort of telling him, and I'm like, see, it's wrapping up around you, and now you're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one situation, and he was going to daycare for a period of time, and I did that every day before I dropped him off. When we
Yeah.
were driving, that was my ritual, was like, okay, me get centered. And that's what it was wrapping him in white light. And I imagined his heart radiating love and light he's hugging me right now, he just came in, with love and light, and in that space. And so anything that was, uncomfortable or unwanted or undesired for him would just kind of bounce off. And that love and light radiation would radiate beyond that shield, I guess you can say, beyond that cocoon of light.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting then, being at his daycare, and this one little boy, just as soon as we got there, there was a group of them on their way out, and he saw a friend that he just adored, and oh, hi. And I guess this other little guy was walking with this little girl, so they had made their connection for the day, and that's who they were gonna, at that moment. And this little guy went right up to Scout and yelled at him, like, oh, like so angry, she's not friend or something. And it was right in his face, and it was really intense. And I was like, whoa, taken aback by, like, holy cow, like somebody's just totally attacking you right now, right?
Yeah.
And he just looked at him, and he's like, oh, and he walked away. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, did that bother you? And he's just like, no. I was like, okay, cool.
That's amazing.
It bothered me.
Yeah, but you didn't have the white light cocoon around you.
I didn't.
You gave it to him.
I did, totally.
But that's it's so beautiful to hear those examples. Like you had been speaking earlier before about, just letting him feel his feelings. And if he needs to scream for however long, he can scream. And if he needs to cry, he can cry. And if he needs to, reach for the next best feeling, if he needs to, just look you in the eyes to calm down and feel safe and breathe together. And then having those visualizations of being like wrapped and secured and protected in this energy, those are all amazing tools, right? That like not just kids benefit from, but any adults who are listening to this, they can also just use those tools as well. But I think it's so amazing that you are in your own way taking that responsibility for, normalizing feelings, especially in young boys, and just making it okay for him to, to feel his feelings and to be in touch with them and to process and get them out, rather than, keeping them bottled in and not having any tools or way to deal with that. That's going to be super helpful for him as he gets older.
Or make something out of it. Make it something. Like, I don't make it anything. It just is, and let it go. Like, it's not, there's no emotion for me attached to it. Sometimes I get frustrated, of course, and I'm like, okay, stop, right? Like, I mean, I'm human too, right? We have our moments, but overall, like, I'm aware of mine and his connection. When he needs me. And like right now, he's sitting on my lap, and he's just snuggled in my lap.
Yeah.
And he needs a moment, so I'm going to honor that moment that he needs. And he's respectful that I'm on the phone and, need him to be quiet. So but we can share this moment still, right?
Yeah. And that's, I really just want to honor that. And to appreciate you for doing that, because I think it's such important work as a parent to prepare your children, prepare your kid to be able to navigate this world in a way that he's able to tap into all of himself, you know, not just that. It's not like only certain parts of him are okay. It's like all of him is seen and witnessed and accepted and respected. So I think that's so, so beautiful, Sheryl.
And the like, my husband and I were talking last night about the potential, and both of us, you know, midnight, I think I'm doing dishes and we're chatting about Scout, and that like whatever, I don't know, whatever he's happy with doing, right? Whatever makes him happy, and not to have expectations of anything. If it's like, yeah, you want to do that, go ahead. Like, give it a shot, right? We're here for you if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
What I like video games.
I'm just trying to figure it out now what I like is video games. Yeah, he's obsessed with video games. But it is Saturday, so Saturday is like I'm like, okay, Saturday you can go to town on a video game.
Exactly. Yeah. I just want to talk really quickly about, because you are obviously an amazingly talented jeweler. You make absolutely amazing pieces, and you have, like, you're so tapped in creatively, and obviously you're so tapped in intuitively. Do you feel that your creative process is an intuitive process? Like, is there any difference between intuition and creativity for you?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It just is. It's like, I feel like it's sort of like this energy that's like tapped to source, right? Like it's like it's like a direct tap into this abundant source of creative energy, that it's like sometimes it just comes and it's like you got to honor it. And I just go, like, it's all very intuitive. I don't draw things out and plan how things are supposed to work and how things have to go together. It's like, you just had a glimpse of my bench top.
I did, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, my space is like a nutty person's space, because I'm not, it's not organized. I'm not planned. Like, I was just working on a bunch of turquoise, and I'm like, you know, wrapping it up, and now taking in my work, being really, I don't want to say methodical because it's another word, really intentional.
Yes.
Intentional. Very intentional with wrapping my turquoise with the silver. And usually I'm like just kind of quick because I want to get it done, and I'm excited to go into the next thing and get this finished. And like, it's not like a rush, like a pressure rush. It's like, I just have so much energy running through me that I just want to get through it, right?
Yeah.
So I've lately, since I took a break for about a week and a half, I've come back to the bench, and everything is intentional. And with that, okay, these lined up really cool, and I'm like, oh, I've got this little gemstone, I'm going to stick that here. And then I feel the energy of what that actually feels like to wear that, and what it feels like, and picturing, like imagining it on. And you know what? I pictured the girl wearing it. I saw her and her energy, and who's going to love this. Yeah. And what she does and what she loves. And I just felt her energy. So it's kind of like, I guess the energy that's going to match it is the energy that I'm feeling for it, right? That I just know that, I mean, I don't know anything really about quantum physics, but I think it's a good thing to mention, I guess, right now. It kind of makes sense intuitively that it's already happened. Yeah. And so I'm just matching it up to what it's supposed to be. The matching the wearer and the piece, connecting the energy up.
That totally just gave me goosebumps hearing about that. Like, just that you're able to feel into the person who already has it and who already loves it. Yeah. And then you're creating it, and you're almost not even really creating it. You're like channeling it. You're allowing that energy to come into form, to be
Yeah.
made manifest. And just as a testament to, like, I remember, well, all of your packages I absolutely love. You can't see we're not on video right here, but I'm like dripping in Miss Quill designs. But the last
feels so
package,
good.
they do. The last package, especially that I got, even like getting it in the mailbox before I had even opened the envelope, it was like palpable. It was tangible. And it was like I opened the envelope and I could feel more energy from it. And then I opened the box and I could feel more energy from it. Or I opened the tissue paper or whatever. And it was like with each unwrapping action I did, it was like the opposite of it was like the opposite of kryptonite, right? Like I wasn't repelled by it at all, obviously, but it was like this visceral emanating energy coming out of it, which now hearing about your intentional process behind it and your devotional process, like it's like you're tapping into my energy of like loving it while you're creating it.
Yeah. And then how you're the opal of your grandma's.
Yes.
And how it's like she's giggling at this, right? Like I felt the light giggling energy of it, and like, you know, she didn't want you to have it on your trip or something. Is that how it went? I can't remember.
Yeah. So she wrecked it. She broke it so that I couldn't take it with me.
Right. And so this is how I work. And when people do customs, or I'm doing customs for something, I'm like, it's a process, because sometimes things are just out of my control and it might not be the right time for it. So I just go intuitively, and my clients just intuitively know that, whether they're aware of it or not. And like I was making this one piece and this girl sent me these stones, and she said, this one is for, there were 3 people that had passed in her life. So each stone was to represent each person. And there was one particular stone, I think it was a garnet or something, I can't remember, but it kept bouncing off of my, like out of my fingers, bouncing off of the bench, falling, like twisting, turning over. I'm like, Jesus. And then I was mentioning to her, I'm like, was this friend with the garnet, I was like, was she feisty? And she goes, oh, was she ever? I'm like, God, like she was so fun to work with. She was all over the place. Like
couldn't be contained.
No, so that was a fun one, like just getting, and it's not like, you know, I prefer not to have, you know, to have like spirit around in a, like, you know, seeing them or, you know, moving something, like I'm not interested in that, like having that in my life, so I don't invite it in, but send me messages from the other side. Give me a little message. Like I'm cool with that. Like flash something, you know, if you're like energetically feel you in the stone, and she wants that in her life, like I'm cool with that. I'll recognize that, but just don't come around.
Yeah, totally.
That's right. I'm not into that.
And Sheryl, for people who are listening to this and maybe feeling like, you know, oh, Sheryl is so tapped in and she's always been this way, and I haven't been this way myself, and like maybe I'm not intuitive, or maybe I don't have access to my intuition. Are there any kind of like suggestions or recommendations that you could have for people who are starting to know themselves as intuitive, ways that they can connect more with their intuition, or ways that they can just deepen their self-trust?
We all know. Every single one of us knows. And we are all spirit. And so we all have that. I knew spirit when I was, I think like I recognized spirit when I would think I was like 7 or something. I remember driving, I remember exactly where we were. And I turned over to my mom and she was driving. I said, Mom, if I had a different dad, would I still be me? And she looked at me and she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, would I still be me? She goes, oh, like you wouldn't look the same and you wouldn't like act the same. And I'm like, no. I'm like, but would I be me? And she's like, oh, like, would you have the same soul? I was like, you didn't have to answer it. I just wanted to know what that was.
Yeah.
What spirit was, what soul was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we all have that. And I think especially now, I don't really follow much like, astrology or what's sort of happening. I hear little bits and tidbits and I love like, oh, we're in, retrograde right now or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm hip to that, but I'm not like fully into it. So I would say that right now we're all super connected. That even on social media is such a trip that it's like, I know when I get a vibe from somebody.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, that's so crazy, right? And it's like, energetically, you just kind of know what that person's feeling or thinking. And you're like, oh, interesting. Like, I just observed fully, but I kind of energetically know. And I think that we all just have an all-knowing about these things. We just, I think, don't know how to discern.
Or don't even, sorry to interrupt.
No, do.
Like, what I'm feeling from what you're saying is that rather than like believing that you don't already have that connection and that you somehow need to find it or like learn it or develop it, that just start from the point that it's already there.
Yeah.
And then just kind of notice and pay attention to how that's showing up for you.
That's right. And if you like that and you want more of it, and you want to sort of like clear like your life up a little bit, to meditate.
Yeah.
Right? To meditate in the morning or to do ritual of something that just makes you feel good. So when you wake up, to get into a good state of mind, whatever that is for you. If it's like, I need to go for a swim, I need to go sit out in the backyard with my coffee, I need, 10 minutes of time to myself and like don't just jump up and get right into the day or jump up and go, oh, this is going to suck, right? Like actually train your mind to be in a state of appreciation, in a state of openness to light and to love and to into good things, into good feeling. And another thing, which I'm sure so many people are gonna be like, ugh, why did she say that? For me personally, I don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm like waiting for like what's going to be the ick factor. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Right. But a lot of people, they have the wine at the end of the day, but that, one glass, fine, like whatever, but come on, like one glass turns into 5 or 4 or whatever. Right. That it's like, it really does mud the gifts that we have, I believe. Myself.
I think it's all about
the intention.
I know for me it does that as well. Yeah. But I know that people who are drinking, I guess, in moderation and from a place of like consciousness and intention and knowing, rather than it being like an addiction or a distraction or just a way to numb out.
Vice. Okay, so there we go. So that's it. So if you're drinking, that it's like, it just be, that it be like, oh, this like, that it be appreciation almost for that drink, right? Yeah. Like, I'm so in love with this wine. So intention. So I guess rather than about alcohol, but intention with things.
With everything,
that the intention comes from a light place, a happy place. A place of appreciation.
And I think too, just to kind of go back to what you were saying before about that like, so if people come from a place that they already have this within them and that it's not something they need to like seek outside themselves, that they can actually go within for that they'll also get a sense of like, what type of meditation will be best for them, or whether their meditation will be more like taking a walk on a beach versus like sitting in lotus position or whatever. Or maybe they'll just get a sense of like, maybe I need to journal, or maybe I need to pull cards or whatever it is. But I think if people start from this understanding that it's already there, you already have it, and then they can kind of tune into themselves and see what the next steps are for them.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about the meditation, it just maybe, rather than go meditate, take a moment in the morning to set the day, to set the feeling for the day, but to take a moment to honor spirit, to honor soul, to honor that, you know, that collective, beautiful energy, the universe, whatever it is, right? To whatever that feeling is, whatever that place is, right? We all have different things for it, God, whatever, pray, right? But just to honor that.
Yeah, something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And that's actually a perfect note to end this conversation on. It feels like a really,
it does.
It feels like inspiring and nourishing and empowering to leave it there. Yeah. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your experiences and your insights. I think it's really just beautiful and activating for whoever's listening to use what came up in this conversation and kind of put it into practice and begin to understand yourself as this naturally, inevitably, and eternally intuitive and energetic being.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. This was so fun. Now I feel so like, I'm like looking outside, I'm like, oh, the sun is like just warmer, the wind is like warmer, everything is just a little more enhanced right now.
The colors are brighter.
That's totally it. It's true. The feelings are like, oh yeah, it feels good. I feel totally activated and centered and open, and I've got a huge smile on my face and my eyes feel like they're bugging out. Like I feel good.
Me too.
Good. Well, and so yeah, to find the like-minded people, to have the conversations, because you'd be surprised how many people there are out there actually who dig this stuff.
Exactly. And my hope with this whole series is to make it more of a conversation, to actually start having these discussions, rather than like each of us kind of privately wondering, am I intuitive, or like, is this normal, or are other people experiencing this? To just like bring it out in the open and get that conversation started. So thanks so much for being a part of the conversation. I really appreciate it, Sheryl.
I'm excited to listen to these, and I'm stoked that you're doing this. This is so cool.
Sweet.